Blueberry. How are you? Yeah. Gentle boy. Alright, let's go. Good morning, YouTube world. It is almost 8 a.m. on Thursday, October 12th. I thought I would pop back in here and take a quick tour of the garden, see what's growing, how things are doing in mid-October. Work I still have to get done before our first frost and hard freeze come. So let's get to it. This bunch of kale is ready for dehydrating. I'm going to be harvesting a bunch of this and dehydrating it today. My freezers are just about full. So what I do with the extras that we're not eating is I dehydrate it and then I blend it up into powder and I keep it in jars in the freezer, and then I have kale powder that I can mix in all throughout the year, either to smoothies or different soups or sauces, and hide it in there. I've almost taken all the dirt out of this wall in preparation of taking these walls down to rebuild them with mortar. Now, what you see that's green in here are from potatoes that were not harvested this spring, because you always miss the baby potatoes. So they have popped back up, trying to grow. I'm not really going to worry about these. I could just rip them out now. The big lumps you see here are sunflower roots. I had sunflowers in this wall this summer, and they were a little hard to dig, but now they've been exposed for a while, I can probably rip them out easier. So this whole wall only had, well, you can see the remnants of corn, and had lettuce in it and 1 or 2 kale. And in the last 4 to 6 weeks, potatoes have been popping up. Again, we had this whole wall full of potatoes in the spring, and now the little ones that we left in the dirt that we missed have all popped up and are growing new potato plants. So I'm actually hoping I'll get another little decent harvest. We may still have another 2 or 3 weeks before frost, and these plants have already all flowered. So maybe I'll get some more potatoes. Ginger, get out of the garden. All right, this side of the garden was tomatoes this year. I've taken most of them out. I've left a few plants that had tomatoes still ripening, but those are probably all going to be gone this week. We did have about a dozen basil plants, and we left just a couple for the bees to continue enjoying, but they'll be coming out also. So there's really nothing else interesting in these rows, just basil plants, tomato plants. And as I suspected, the broccoli did not do well. Something came in and nibbled up all the broccoli that was in these rows, or this row. That's a bean trying to grow there. But I think I have 2 or 3. That's a lettuce. That's some broccoli that I didn't transplant. So I've got these 2 broccoli plants and these 2 broccoli plants. That's all I've got for broccoli. There's parsley. And I haven't started digging this row out either, removing the dirt. I'm still letting these beans finish ripening to save for seeds, green beans. And these were the cayenne pepper plants with loads more cayenne on them still. And a volunteer green bean. Let's see. All right, here's more kale that I transplanted. Over here, the corn was taken out. Still have a few more squash. Spaghetti squash to harvest here. I'll insert a picture. This was our first round of collecting squash. Washed them all up, set them out to dry, and they are in storage now. This was the volunteer cherry tomato plant that I have just let go wild, so I'm still getting cherry tomatoes. I took over a little bit of those pepper plants there. Leftover carrot, otherwise this bed has been emptied. And this strawberry bed right in front of us, we've dug a bunch out for friends to have, and we're going to be taking the rest out and throwing them to the chickens. I don't need this many strawberries next year. I am keeping the 2 metal beds full of June-bearing strawberries, and I'll show you the ever-bearing in just a minute. Alright, I got some peppers in there ready to grab today. Last basil plant here. Watermelons that tried to grow again. Of course, it's too late for them to do anything. More spaghetti squash. And this has been my best year ever for dahlias. I planted between, I don't know, you could look back, maybe 8 to 10 different dahlia varieties this year, in addition to the couple that I already had. And they have been so lovely to bring in the house for cut flowers this year. Pimento plants. A few more down there. Volunteer onion, some lettuce seeds that I threw out. Now this side of the garden is where I have done more of my planting for my winter crops and stuff that I'll be pulling out in the spring, stuff that needs to grow all winter. So let me show you around that. These are the Brussels sprouts that I transplanted a few weeks ago into these 2 corner beds. Again, I don't know if I did all that too late this year, if I'm even going to get anything. How well they'll do over winter, I don't know. It depends on how cold winter gets this year in Virginia. So that's some extra cauliflower here. And that whole row is cauliflower. This row here, all the way down. And you can see the plants that were started earlier are much bigger. So I know I'm going to have to row cover these in the next couple weeks. Now this bed should have been empty except for the squash that were ripening, butternut squash. I still have a lot of those to collect, as you can see as I walk down. But this bed also had potatoes in it this past spring. And so the ones we missed have all voluntarily come up. And hopefully they'll give me a few more potatoes. Got lots more tomatoes still waiting to ripen. And as soon as they give a little bit of a blush, I'll bring them inside and let them finish ripening inside. These 2 are cauliflower. All the rest are Brussels sprouts. And these are where the bundle of Brussels sprouts were that I transplanted from. I just left the rest of them there. And then we have more dahlias. And a few more Brussels sprouts at the end of this row. And that's a potato coming up. I don't have time for you. There's some lettuce seeds in there a couple weeks ago. Spinach has been doing really awesome. I have frozen almost as much as my freezers can take. And now I'm dehydrating. I've got a couple days worth that I've dehydrated that I need to powderize. So far I've just been clipping off the huge leaves to try and keep up and leaving what's left. This was the second planting of carrots. I'll show you the one that's a couple weeks older in a few minutes. spinach. This row has Brussels sprouts at the end. Toss in some lettuce. And then our garlic for next spring. We planted those towards the end of September. So they are all coming up. Not next spring, but we'll harvest them around June of next year. And I refilled these towers with more strawberries. These are ever-bearing strawberries. As you can see, I'm still getting strawberries out of them. The garlic bed did have potatoes in it this spring also. So I've been snapping off the potatoes that I see trying to grow in there. And this is the older batch of carrots. I mean, it's like a week or two older than the ones in the wall. Nice carrots growing down there. And the rest of the carrot bed I filled with spinach and kale. And this is stuff that I would expect to be harvesting next spring. I'm going to thin that kale out a little bit so you can see it's 2 rows of spinach and 1 of kale. I knew that what I had in the walls probably wouldn't make it all the way through winter. I'm harvesting what I can now to have for when I can't harvest. And this stuff I wanted to get big enough to just kind of go dormant during the winter. I'll row cover it probably. And then in the spring, it'll take off and get pretty big. And I can harvest from that early, like in March. And red peppers and yellow or orange? I think they were orange. Let's see. Ah, yeah, orange peppers. Still getting plenty of those. We haven't had a frost yet. And the bok choy I've gotten multiple harvests from. I've just been using it fresh or freezing it when I have too much. And we put that in smoothies. So it's starting to go to flower. So I'm going to come in today and harvest a bunch of that down. Try to preserve it a little bit longer. And the red peppers. And this is my other ever-bearing strawberry bed. So this year, just the first half of this bed was ever-bearing strawberries, the 2 towers, and I had a few pots on the ground around it. And I cleared everything out of the bed, split up all the plants, refilled empty spots, and then expanded this bed all the way down. And I only did them 3 rows across. I think I had 4 before, but I only did in 3 rows across this time. And then when the bed, sinks down over time. So we added in more compost and peat moss, alfalfa pellets, fertilizer, and I also need to get some coffee grounds to put in there also. And then we're back to the big kale. So that's it for what's going on here. We've got our year's worth of garlic from this year, a year's worth of onions. I don't know how long the current potato stash will last us. It was around 300 pounds. I've been canning some. I've canned about 50 quarts of applesauce so far. Should be doing another 50 next week. My goal with applesauce is to have 2 quarts a week in case we want that much. It's such a nice guilt-free dessert. I did not get any squash from what I had planted here this year. The 2 squash that grew didn't do well. They rotted or something. So that was a fail. So today is going to involve harvesting bok choy, of course any peppers and tomatoes that I can get, and then lots more spinach. And maybe a new bouquet of dahlias.